I'm Samantha, the host for tonight, and welcome to join us tonight for this ACM preview. And today we have Walter's Siegfried Hahn with us, and he's our speaker for tonight. Walter is originated from Germany and now resides in Palawan, Philippines. Yeah, he first trained as a gardener and has been involved with biodynamic agriculture and Anthroposophy since 1975. It is 49 years ago. And his social and political engagement leads him to the concept or the philosophy of the social threefolding. And Walter and his wife, Dr. Grace Sosa Brajo, also founded a non-profit organization, the COVID-19 1924. And Dr. Grace is also one of our conference workshop tutors. And this non-profit organization is the intention is to take care of the food security, teaching the biodynamic agriculture, nutrition, medical care, as well as supporting ward-off education and also the community building. And Walter is very keen also on lecturing on the theme of census, threefolding, self-development, and different types of topics in over 20 countries. And he's also the writer, for several books and publications in German language. Now tonight we invite Walter to share the highlights of his conference workshop and to explain its significance. Learning is living. Yeah, I think this topic is quite interesting, and and how we can focus, as an adult, how can we focus this learning path and the learning which is how we could be more effective to learn and develop all this the wisdom, especially developed by the pioneers. Yeah, so it is more like a holistic learning for us, and also for our inner development. And welcome, Walter, for tonight sharing. And over to you, Walter.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for inviting, and also thank you very much, Meishin, and good luck for this first of translating online. And while I'm speaking, you are speaking. That's quite a challenge. Good luck with that. Thanks. And yeah, you see, this topic is a very individual one, meaning that whoever is part of it is part of it, meaning whoever is there, changes the whole setup and is involved somehow. And especially here on Zoom, it has namely that if you switch on your video, you will be much more part of it, and the whole setup will change. I know that in some places in the world we're not very much used to open the screen, but I tell you, when we do work in China, the people are very much used to open the screen, because it's really an experience that I'm able
老师请求呢，大家呢把这个影片打开。那
all the people that are there when I'm able to see them. Of course, when I see your names, I have a little bit already of an idea, but it's really different already when I see people. And of course, it will still change a lot once we are in the three-dimensional space and we can really feel each other. But we're very happy, we're very lucky, in fact, that we have this Zoom, this possibility over many hours all around the globe, we can actually talk to each other. And when I say talk to each other, I would also think it's totally fine if you interrupt me, if you have questions in between, if you have, if you do not understand something. Of course, sometimes it clarifies, it gets clarified.
问问题，如果你不明白的时候呢，也可以去问后，或者之后再来问的时候呢，也是可以。
All right, maybe not third. Okay, so it's very much an individual thing, learning. And that's what we're always trying to do. Actually, also in the school, in the children education, we're really looking at the individual child and how can we bring the child forward. And there are some similarities between adult education and children education, but there are also some differences. One big thing is, of course, that while we take care of the child as an adult, we protect it and we make it, grow like a plant. We take care of it. The plant is being nurtured, it's being protected by us. As an adult, I have to take care of myself. So that's the big difference. While for children, there are adults who take care of them. For the adults, one could say it's the same thing, but it's we ourselves, it's me, myself, who takes care of my learning process. And there's an interesting dilemma, so to say, namely, on the one side, we learn. As long as we live, we learn. We cannot actually not learn. But at the same time, if we do not do it consciously, then we will probably not learn in the best way that we can. So when you look at education over the last thousands of years, even children education is something very new. When we look back, it's maximally 250 years for most of the children. And actually, for many children, it only started a few decades ago when you look at it worldwide. There are exceptions for some children that were taken to monasteries. They got already education, but for really the majority, the vast majority, children education only started about 200 to 250 years ago.
但是呢，大部分孩子教育呢，只有在200到250年前才开始的，有些地方呢是在70、80年前开始。那至于成年人的教育呢，
And the exception was, again, mostly the monastery or somewhat the sacred places. And there, the education that was given was more or less what we could call initiation. So interestingly, there was the adult education that we had till about, also again, 100, 200 years ago, that was about initiation. The initiation goals, of course, changed. So we had some 2,000-3,000 years ago, we had initiations that were more focused on initiating the student into earthly life. That is what is happening today in children's education. No? Children's education is actually very much aimed at incarnate the child, at making the child a citizen of the earth. Now, we expect that about with 20 years, the child, the person, has already been initiated into the earth life, and now we're actually doing the way back. We're trying to reconnect again with our spiritual origin. So adult education has several components. One of them is also to learn about things that have to do with earthly life. How can I be a carpenter? How can I become a good doctor? And all those things, professionalism. Also about general things, part of the earthly life. But then it is also about how do I understand my life? And then how do I connect with the spirit and actually become, in this way, a creative person? And that is a very human thing that, chimpanzees or cows, they also in a certain way learn, but they will not be able to reconnect to the spirit as we do and thus become creative. And so there are certain ways and certain attitudes that one can learn as an adult to intensify our learning in the different levels. So when we look at the more earthly learning, like, as I say, become a carpenter, become a doctor, learn how to cook, how to learn to cook certain dishes. The learning that we today usually have is a very, it's not what I would call learning. It is only taking in, right? It's like actually only breathing in. Now, and imagine you would only breathe in all the time and not breathe out. What would that mean? You would become sick very quick. And that is what we actually see in many places, that we have symptoms that come out of this not properly dealing with contents that we are exposed to. So if you only listen to what I'm saying now, and you're not also at the same time thinking about it, then it's actually poisonous in a certain way. And that's what we really experience. And Steiner says, most diseases that we have today are in a way diseases that come from not breathing out enough. And with breathing out, obviously, it is not just meant, it can also mean the actual physical breathing out, but it is much more also the breathing out of in different ways. And here I already mentioned, or here I already suggest that what we call the life processes, and breathing is one of them, they get in the adult or towards when we become older and older in our from childhood to youth till we become adult. The so-called life processes, they transform into learning processes. So I'm not sure now if and how much you have learned about the life processes, if you have heard about the life processes. I know Kali has, I see that. May I maybe see a little sign who has heard about the 7 life processes? Yeah, hands up. Thank you very much. Can also be. Okay, that's quite a few already. And then who has heard about the learning processes? Maybe not quite as many, no? So the life processes, they, so to say, enliven the senses, and they help us build up and maintain our physical body. And they, during the process of becoming adult, they more and more can be given up, and they transform in faculties of thinking and of remembering, and of building a spiritual body, so to say. And yeah, that's one of the things that we for sure would look at during the workshop. As I said in the beginning, it always really depends on the people who are there and what they actually wish, what they're interested in. But that's one of the pillars of the new adult learning, the 7 learning processes. And we would talk about them. I would introduce them, but for sure we will use them. And in fact, all that I do, whether that is a lecture, whether that is a workshop, everything is based on these learning processes. So you will not see me go out of a workshop without the question, what will you do with it? No, that's the 7th life process, to come up with new ideas that you put in practice. And when you hear me stumble here already, it is so that these learning processes, as much as the life process, you can use in so many ways. Just as an example, I'm sure also some of you have heard about the theory U by Otto Scharmer, and you're very aware that it also has 7 steps. That's actually the same 7 steps. They're just looked at from another perspective. and they are used in a very practical way. Or if you have ever heard about the Alcoholics Anonymous, that's 12 steps, but when you look at them very intimately, you will also see that actually it's 7 steps. It's 7 steps. And why is it so often 7? Because 7 is it's something that has to do with life. And as a biodynamic farmer, I know very well that these life processes are connected actually without the planets. No, that is very strange for many people today, or if ever it's not so strange, also often they imagine that as something very, as an idea, but it is true that as a farmer, you experience these different planets, how they actually influence the plant life. In fact, when you look at it, you know that a plant just grows upwards. Why is that? That has something to do with the sun, obviously. No, so in that example, you can already see it's actually very obvious, and because it is so obvious, maybe we also don't really notice what is happening. So the 7 life processes are connected, are developing into the 7 learning processes, and these processes are connected with the planets. So maybe so far about the 7 processes, and maybe one other feature which is very important to me, that we learn how to connect to that source that creates, that has created, but also that creates. And we all know, and we have all experienced that we do create. No, we do create things, we do create ideas, we do create words, we do create sentences, we create even books that have not been there before. So this creative power, how to get to it, how to develop that is a very basic treat of new adult learning. And there are ways to get there. And one of them we will for sure use in the workshop, and we will use it actually for the whole conference. That is the review. No? That is remembering what we have experienced. So what is outside, we're bringing it inside, and then strengthening the inside and making it the basis of further development. When I say making it a basis of further development, in the moment when I consciously remember something, then it is much easier to take that into the night. And now a certain level of learning just happens in the night. This is very beautifully described in many lectures by Steiner. And we have a lot of research in the last 20, 30 years, which also confirms and describes how we learn in the night. And we learn in the night in different levels. So for example, we have had a conversation, or we have had an experience with somebody in the day before, and we wake up in the morning and know that we have to go back to this person and say, I'm sorry, for example. Or I remember some feeling. So that is a learning in the feeling level. That we say there's a conscience in us, no? It comes overnight. Maybe, you know, when I develop this more and more, I will feel it also more and more when it already happens. But you know, when I start with it, it may come in the morning. And if I activate that more and more, then I'll more and more be really present with my feelings and will not so easily hurt others and so forth. And then we have, of course, learning in the willing. So for example, especially the teacher will know that. I'm standing in front of the class, or like me, myself. I'm talking to you now, and I'm hearing myself say things which, which are just coming to me. And all of you have experienced that already. You have not planned exactly to say this and that to your partner, to your child, to your boss, but it just comes to you. And that is a learning in the willing. And then we have, of course, a learning in the understanding, in the thinking. Sometimes it's also not exactly clear, is it the learning in the thinking or is it in the willing? I give you an example. I left my keys somewhere. I don't know anymore. Where did I leave my keys? And actually, I do that sometimes when I can't wait till tomorrow. I just lie down for 15 minutes and I wake up and I know where the keys are. So this is really very well developed with me already. I would say in 80–90% of the cases, I can just do that. Just even sleeping or lying down 15 minutes. So this, what we call the review, and there are different kinds of reviews that we can do. The backward review is a very special advanced one, but we can do the reviews in many different ways and also in different times. We can review a day, we can review a week, we can review a month, and it's also very helpful to do a review of the year before we start a new year. So different kinds of reviews. What happens is that we strengthen our memory, and the memory is something very human. You see, these things that we are exposed to today in the internet, with the many pictures that we see on Facebook or WhatsApp and so forth, all these things are actually made to destroy our memory, destroy humanity, actually. So this is something, in a way, revolutionary. It's in a way something of resistance to take care of one's memory and to use it. As I say, the memory is the basis then of many other things, many other challenges that we can deal with. Yeah, maybe so far there are many other aspects that we can look at. Maybe at this point we make a little break, breathe out. Meishin, are you okay? Okay, smiling. Great, thank you very much. Any questions at this point?
Yeah, for those who would like to ask questions, you kindly unmute yourself, raise your hand, unmute yourself, and ask the questions, or you can type the question in the chat box. It's a long breath out, water.
I have a question, Walter.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned about memory. So, like, in this learning process, right? Do we try to remember everything? Like, when we do the, like to strengthen the memory, right? Do we try to remember everything? Or, like, because we will have pleasant and unpleasant, and sometimes we try to not to remember something. So how does this process work?
Yeah, that's a very complicated, actually, question. We could do a few days only on this. It's very, very interesting. But I would say, on the other side, once we do things, they get clarified, and we get to the essence. And the important thing is that we do them, and then we do get to the essence, and then it's actually not that complicated, no. The important thing is that we do it. sometimes we have, you know, people then who try very hard over 3 or 4 days, and then they do nothing, and then it's lost, no? So in these things, it is important to use rhythm. As Steiner once said, rhythm substitutes force. So if we do 5 minutes more or less every day, this brings over a few weeks a huge power. And so what we do when we remember, yeah, is don't do it too long, but do it, and remember that what you remember. And you know, with every day passing, you will learn and build up this memory, and build up also an understanding what is essential. And you'll be able more and more also then to, you know, to direct yourself to different levels and to different places. So you could, for example, say, I'm interested in the feelings, no? And then you will more and more get led to the feelings. Or maybe some of you have this experience with dreams, no? I did that for a while many years ago.
然后去建立这个记忆，然后呢，去明白说什么是需要的，去分辨这个需要的，然后呢，你就可以越来越有能力这样子去让自己呢去专注在需要的这个地方。比如说呢，我们有兴趣的是在情感层面，那我们呢就会越来越能够专注去这个情感这里，然后呢，你可能会经历一些梦境。那波特呢就说，他很多年以前呢，他说他想要经历自己的梦境，然后呢，通常有很多人都说他们没有梦。那当你专注在这个梦境
length of time and also with efforts, you know, we're talking about soft will and hard will. So we're learning how to use our will in a balanced way. But the rhythm gives us a lot of power. If we do it, even after a week, you can feel that, or at least many people after 3-4 weeks, when you do something more or less every day, a lot of power comes in, and we can direct more and more our will to what we're interested in. Thank you, Kali. Is that okay? Sandy, you have a question? Contribution? No.
Walter, I think I have a question, but I'm not sure whether I can elaborate well about the learning, right? Because normally nowadays we learn through reading books most of the time. Yeah, because I think this is one of the tools that we can easily access and so-called learning. Yeah. So this the learning that you mentioned, is it reading the books or a text or listening to the podcast nowadays very popular, is part of the learning process as well, as you mentioned? Or this is only like we only comes to certain level, but this learning could not connect to the higher level. What's it?
Yeah, thank you. So there are in fact different levels or different realms of learning, and reading a book or listening to a podcast is part of learning, can be part of learning. The problem is, you know, that we usually have not learned to learn. We have even in school, you know, as teenagers or so, many of us have depending on country and school and etc., but we have not really learned, for example, to read a book. No, to read a book, I can just first of all, okay, I have learned to decipher it, to actually read the words and so forth. That's fine. I've maybe learned to understand the sense. No, you see, there's different levels of learning, but then, you know, most of us can read, you think, okay, that's normal. For us in the Philippines, not necessarily normal, or also in the United States, many people are not able to read. They have not learned to read. But for us, of course, obviously it seems normal. But then we're coming up to only a certain level, namely that we read the words. Sometimes, I'm sure you know, I also have that sometimes. I read, and at one point I find I've lost the thread. I've lost the sense. No, so you see where actually our eyes, our spirit is able to do that, but then the sense gets lost. And so that's how far most of us get, that we are able to read these words and make some sense mostly out of it. But then, you know, the learning steps, they would say, okay, the actual reading, that's like breathing in now. No, so the breathing out would, for example, be, do I have a partner that reads the same book? So I say, look, what I remember, again, what I read in there was this and that. So that's step one, breathing in, breathing out. But then a very important step is already step two. That is, we call that warming. So in the life processes, obviously the warming, which could also be called cooling, you know, keeping a good warmth for my body. You know, if it's 1 degree too little, I already get a cold, and if it's 1 degree higher, I already have fever. So it's an amazing, delicate thing to keep the right warmth. And now imagine all the people who study in the university today. They just take that stuff in. They don't usually even breathe it out, but they have no warming. That meaning they have no connection. So in the learning process, we call that connecting. There are different terms for that. But you know, do I develop a relationship to this content? And that can be antipathy, it can be sympathy, but you see, both of them have to do with warmth. It's either cooling or warming to it, no? And when you think of that, you know, just how many people in the university today, you know, it's not even wanted in there that you sympathize or antipathize with it. You're supposed to just take in the content. So yeah, that is going through the steps, through the 7 learning steps while reading the book. That is one possibility to actually learn and not just take in. There are other ways. We could, for example, look at the content through the fourfold. No, we can look at what is actually the material content in it, what is actually being said, how are the life processes, the etheric, what moves in there, how does it move? Steiner, for example, uses very often, when you look at his books, he often uses 7 steps, in fact. No, the philosophy of freedom is amazing. When you count the sentences, even, it's like all going through numbers. No, so it's etheric. And then, of course, the soul, again, the sympathy and antipathy, and how do I relate with my higher self to it? So fourfold. There are different methods how to deal with it, but just to take in is making us sick. But reading a book is totally fine, as a basis for learning, but it's only a basis. Same thing, of course, with a podcast. No, I mean, it's like we treat such a podcast like some entertainment in a way, no? And you know, all that can be, it's just the thing that we do that way too much. You know, just how many things do we take in? How much do we read the newspaper or listen to YouTube and so forth? And so there's no digestion. No, that's the next step, by the way, after the relating. How do we digest the food? How do we digest the content? How do we then individualize it? How, you know, what is it? It will never be the same what you learn from this book and what I learn, because we're different people. And so it is in the workshop, of course, no? We will all learn different things. And my teacher, Coenraad van Houten, he used to say, you know, that's one of the things that I will always remember. He said, there's never a lecture where you cannot learn anything, you know? It depends on you, you know, the lecture can be so bad, but, you know, if you haven't learned anything there, it's up to you. So thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Walter. And I have a question, and just wondering, another question really popped into my mind, and I found that your workshop is more interesting when I get to know better about this. And upcoming workshop, how would you facilitate the participant to this workshop to start learning in your workshop? How you
How,
really how you will guide them to start the learning?
how do I guide them? Yeah,
Yeah.
I will only know that then. You see, that's one of the things that I at least try to also evoke in the people, that there is only now. There's only now, no? Of course, I have to prepare, but I've been preparing 65 years. So, and I still, of course, what is important for me is that a few days before that I have the names of the people. Then I can, because I'm so to say, I'm bringing them to my sleep world already. And this way, when we actually meet, we have a different we have already prepared together. This is very important. But then what actually happens is very unique. But what I like to do, because I'm very much a person that is dealing with the senses, right? And I have learned that the learning processes, they start with perception, right? Breathing, no? Breathing in is perceiving with the senses. So I usually start with some kind of perception exercise of some experience. That can be that we get to know each other through some game, or some looking at a color, or listening to a sound, or producing a sound together. I cannot decide that now. No, I have to see the people. But a sensory experience, because that's the basis of the learning, we will usually start with a sensory experience, and then somehow one has to get to know each other and to know the people. On the other side, we only have, I think, 4.5 hours for the whole thing, so it has to be concise. Yeah, that's how we start, and then the end, as I said already, there will be some kind of conclusion, and the conclusion will have to lead, if possible, into some willing, into some future action. Yeah, that's the whole learning. No, if I don't just use it to eat, but I use actually, like when I eat food, I actually use it to do something in the world. No? And so it is with the learning also. The learning cannot be complete if I do not do something in the world. And that's, of course, anthroposophy. We don't do it just for ourselves. We do it to contribute in the world.
Thank you so much, Walter. So, dear friends, do you still have any question for Walter? If you have a questions to ask, kindly raise a hand and unmute yourself, or you could type in the chat box.
Oh, yeah, 9 hours. That's right. We have 9 hours. Thank you. That's already good. That's
Yeah.
nice. And it's
Okay.
what is very nice is that we have breaks in between. It's as I said with exercising with the review also, it's not so much the time. In fact, I have done many workshops in China where we actually, after lunch, we lie down on a mattress and we sleep 20 minutes. And this has always been experienced as very, very successful, because we have one night more in between. So that's actually very good that we have six parts, right? 6 parts. So we have a lot of space in between, because the lunch break is also, it's not, of course we're not sleeping in there, but we're bringing our attention to something totally different. And then when we come back in the workshop, 1.5 hour, we have somehow digest it. And yeah, so that's very good, actually. A good organization, I can see. A good setup. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Walter, and thanks for your time. Yeah, Walter now is in Donna, it's far away from here, but appreciate your time, to join this to share with us some of the insight of the workshop, while learning is a living. And also, I would like to take this opportunity, to call for a last call for the registration of the conference. Yeah, for those who has not registered yet and or still pondering, what workshop to register. Yeah, I think why not just join, the workshop facilitated by Water. Yeah, I think this is it's very interesting. You have to, learning it's not just you're reading a book or a very surface, but in fact it can go in depth, and it's, to me, just certainly there's a word to come up. It's like it's kind of like a process of awakening, a soul process. And this is also what I learned from Meishin. Before the conference, we have a short conversation about the education, the learning. Then this is what she shared with me. It's the awakening process. That's nice, yeah. So for those who are still wondering what kind of workshop, to sign in, to choose, then we have 10 workshops for this conference. And the conference is happened in this June 26th and June 30th, until June 30th. And we have 10 workshops for you to choose. And sorry for that, if you'd like to join Professor Hubert's workshop, and it's full and closed now. So the rest of the workshop is just so amazing, and it's definitely inspire you and bring you different knowledges, and as well as your inspiration is different. So you may just choose it, close your eye. If you really cannot decide, just close your eye and just point just point it blindly. And, whenever you point it out, then that's the workshop that it belongs to you this time. Yeah. And to me, this conference is more like a journey, a learning for the inner soul, other than a physical level. As I harvest some of the key points from the conversation just now with the sharing with the Water, is suddenly it's like, oh, this workshop is more like a breathing out, a learning that in different way, you other than we attend a trainings or professional trainings, yeah, when we working or when we go to school, and different kind of workshop, different kind of a conference, it could be brings you different way of learning. And we have an in and out, and I believe the conference of this coming conference will definitely benefit you and inspire you. So other than 10 workshop, then we have 13 art and practices class for you to choose as well. And this is how we would like to, the design is like, other than, to use your brain to think, and then during the evening time, there's opportunity for you to hands-on to work on it, to experience to your hands, to your sensor. Yeah, that's why we have art classes and some of the practices for you to experience through different ways. We have art, we have a play art, we have a conversation as a dialogue or listening, and we also have the workshop about the fermentation and our culinary. And if you like something music, and we have music with a lyre or the singing sessions. Yeah, do not miss this opportunity for this coming June. And for the whole day is a 5 days conference, where we start the day one with the evening speech by Dr. Michaela, and who is the keynote speaker for the conference. And for the 3 days intensive learning, then we have a workshop for the morning session and after lunch sessions, and then we come back with art and practices. Yeah, so we were closing with evening keynote or keynote by the workshop teachers. So the day 5 is a last day of the workshop, what a conference, and we end it with a community market. So this is also, I guess, okay, to me it's like a breathe in and breathe out, also the process where the market for you to can make us to connect with other people, make friends, and also make a connect with a different community. So this is my personal key harvest during the learning of this journey, and I would like to share with you, and maybe I hope that this key harvest also become yours. All the learning, you can meet friends and connect with other communities. And for a personal development wise, I think that it's a way for me to learn how to be more independent, in part of thinking, feeling, and willing. And also all this learning, it could be inspired that to lit up your inner fire, that to take action. And I think most important is to nurture your inner self. Yeah, I think this is much more important, that because if you have warmth inside, I think we have a strength. Yeah, so this is the key harvest that I personally gained during these past 10 years of learning anthroposophy, and I believe this could be yours as well. So for the fees, right, it include the conflicted lunch, dinner, refreshment, and material. And also with the support of local organic and biodynamic farmers, we are using organic ingredients for all the meal. And we also get a very good support from the hotel, the chef, and they will prepare the organic meals for us. So do come in too, because with a trusted companion, either is your best friend, BFF, or your the other half, or your colleagues, then this is a lifelong learning and development journey. With a companion, we have strength, and we also we have more like feel being supported. Yeah, I think for two, this is more a community. So we have a special offer and rates for two. So do not miss it, and do scan for the registration. If you'd like to have a registration from English, do scan the English. And for Chinese, there's another code for the Chinese. And also, if you'd like to access for Chinese information, then you can scan the Padlet, or you can go to Gongsi Co-op website for the further information. All right, thanks for joining us tonight. And all the workshop, actually, we have a Mandarin interpretation for the workshop. Yep. So do not miss the opportunity, and just click and register. Yeah, we are closing soon, May 31st. Hope that to secure a spot right now. And thank you, Walter, so much for your time. And please send our regard to Grace. Yeah, and hope to see you this coming June. And then if anything, just email us and see how we could support each other for the preparation.
Thank you very much for being here and giving me the chance to talk. And there's a question, Chu Lim, still with the dreaming. Yes, in fact, dreaming is an important part of the learning, and we are blessed that this happens without our doing, without our consciously doing. But it is really an integrative part. Without dreaming, we would not survive. And we'll leave it at that. We don't have to bring it to consciousness. No, it's happening naturally, luckily, but without it, we would not continue to live. No, so it's really important that we dream, and everybody does dream. Yeah, thank you very much, Yining, also for your support. Hope to see you there. Thanks again, everyone, and hope to see you there.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this session. And thank you, Walter, for the time. Thank you so much.